Hey y'all, so after my last video where I shared how I plan out my goals for the upcoming year and how to have more of a purpose-filled, intention-filled year, after that video, which if you missed that one, I'll include a link in the description of this video for that one. A lot of folks wanted me to talk about finances and how to prepare your finances for the new year and some things that you maybe should do. And so let's get into this. If you're new here, my name is Jessi Fearon. My family of 5 is 100% debt-free, which yes, does include our home. And these are just some things that we typically do right at like the end of the year to the beginning of the year. So either like in quarter 4 or the first quarter, we do these things in order to make sure that we are on track financially, that we are on track for achieving our goals, or if there may be some things that we need to adjust or fix along the way. And so the first thing that we do is that we do a spending review. Now, I will go through the entire year's spending just because I'm an accountant and I like doing that kind of thing. But I know that if you've never done this before, that is probably going to be too overwhelming. So what I would encourage you to do is to go back for the last 2 to 3 months worth of bank statements and pull up your bank statements from wherever you spend your money from. So, your checking account, if you use credit cards, credit card accounts, wherever you spend your money at, you need to pull the last 2 to 3 months worth of bank statements from those accounts, and you need to review them. You need to review them to figure out exactly what and where you have been spending your money for the last few months. And you need to make sure that your spending is in line with what goals you want to achieve for the year. So maybe there's a subscription that you're still paying for that no longer serves you and you're just sort of wasting your money. That would be something to definitely eliminate from your budget. So once you've identified what you've been spending your money on that is no longer valuable to you, or maybe that you need to kind of scale back on, make sure that you take action on that. I know for us that we have put off for way too long changing our trash companies. We've been using the same trash company for a couple of years now, and for a while they've been fine. But over the last year and a half, they have consistently increased their prices by roughly $10 every quarter because we pay every quarter. And it has gotten to a point where it's just absolutely insane. And we have honestly put it off for way too long on trying to switch trash companies or see if we can get a better deal with the current company that we're with. But by doing this spending review, I'm able to see just how much money we have been spending with them. And then I can put that into comparison with where we want to go and what goals we are hoping to achieve. And in doing this spending review, you're able to make better, more educated decisions on how and where you want to be spending your money. So once you have completed your spending review, the next thing that you should do is go to all of your savings accounts and record the balances of them. So you need to go to your emergency fund, to any sinking funds you have, and your retirement accounts or other investment accounts that you have. Pull those accounts up and look at the balances and determine if you are on track with whatever savings goals you may have. And if you're not on track, what are maybe some ways that you can get on track this year? Maybe that's something that you need to include with your goals, is to get on track with saving XYZ amount of money in your emergency fund or contributing XYZ amount to your retirement accounts, whatever it may be. And so after you've done your spending review and you have reviewed your savings accounts, the next thing you want to do is review any debts that you have. So same thing as you did with the savings accounts, go in and write down the current balances of all of your debts if you don't already track this. The reason this is important is because your debts eat away at your net worth. So literally nothing brings down your net worth faster than debt, because the debt is a liability and your net worth is determined by your assets, the things that you own, minus your liabilities, which is the debts attached to those assets. That equals your net worth. And so you want to make sure that you have a healthy net worth. So what do you currently have in the form of debt balances? What do those debt balances look like? Do you need to make any changes this year? Do you maybe want to start paying off debt? Maybe do you want to reduce some of the debt burden that you have? And if that's the case, then sit down and make an actual plan for paying off those debts. For my family, the way that we paid off our debts is that first we built up our starter emergency fund. I'll include a link in the description of this video that goes into more depth on what a starter emergency fund is and how to start one. But I would highly recommend you starting with a starter emergency fund, especially if you have nothing in savings. The reason for this is that I promise you something is going to come up. I mean, if 2020 has taught us anything, it's that we control very little. So something is more than likely going to come up and you are going to probably have to spend money, money that you may not want to spend, but money you will be grateful to have sitting in a savings account, in an emergency fund, rainy day fund, whatever you want to call it. You're going to be very grateful for that. And that's going to help you from falling back into debt or further down into debt by having that cash on hand to pay for those emergencies. And so start there. So if you don't have a starter emergency fund, definitely start there, and then make your plan for paying off your debts. I'm a huge fan of listing your debts in order from the smallest balance to the highest balance. I know some folks like to do the debt avalanche method, which is where you list your debts in order from the highest interest rate to the lowest one. Either one is fine. I just find that doing the debt snowball method, there's way more momentum because, paying off a $500 credit card balance and being able to strike that off your list, like that's very rejuvenating. Whereas where maybe your highest interest rate is your car loan, that's $30,000, it's going to take you a lot longer to achieve paying off that $30,000 loan than it does to pay off one of those maybe smaller balances. And it's just really fun to get those kind of marked off, crossed off, and kind of out from underneath you and that burden off your back. And you're then able to snowball what that minimum payment and what extra payments you were making to that smaller balance debt towards the next smallest balance debt on your debt snowball list. The other thing that you need to do, so after you've done your spending review, you've checked on your savings accounts and your investment accounts, and you've tallied up any debts that you owe and made a plan maybe to pay those off if that's one of your goals. The other thing that you need to do is to make sure that you have adequate insurance. And I'm not just talking about your car insurance or your home insurance. I'm also talking about your life insurance. Even if you are single and you're not married and you don't have any dependents, I would still encourage you to get either a burial plan, just some cheap life insurance. The reason being is because you don't want the unfortunate event of your death, you don't want that burden to fall to your parents or to a sibling to have to pay to bury you. And I especially encourage you to do this if you have a co-signer on any loans. So if you have student loans and your parents co-signed for you, definitely get life insurance that covers the amount of those student loans, because upon your death, your parents will then have to pay for that student loan debt. And so don't leave them with that burden. Make sure you're taking care of your loved ones after you're gone. Even if you're a stay-at-home mom, get life insurance. For me, as a stay-at-home mom, I claimed what it would cost us in childcare. I claimed that as my income because, granted, I'm not technically earning an income from staying home with my children, but that is money that my husband would have to pay somebody else to care for our children in the event of my death. And so stay-at-home parents, definitely get life insurance. Even if you're not a stay-at-home parent, you still need life insurance. Even if you're young and healthy and you think that, oh, nothing bad can happen to me, things can happen, y'all. So definitely get some life insurance. I'm a big fan of term life because it's cheap. But not only that, as life goes on, like you may get married, you may get divorced, you may have children. And as life goes on, you need to change and update your policies in order to reflect that. And it's a lot easier and cheaper to do so when you have a term life insurance policy than a whole life insurance policy. And I just personally feel like whole life is not the best investment vehicle. Like I can invest my money in my Roth IRA and earn way more money than I would in a whole life insurance policy. But regardless, some life insurance, burial insurance, something to cover just burying you, that's good. Just make sure you have that in place. And the last big thing that I encourage you to do to start this new year off on the right foot financially is to pull your credit report. I am not talking about your score here, even though it's really important to keep an eye on your score. I do so for free through Credit Karma. It's free credit monitoring. I don't pay for it at all, but like it alerts me the moment anything is run against our credit. And so it's just really important to monitor it. And so again, you can do so free at Credit Karma, but we're not talking about just your score here because your score may be important, but it's not really what's important. What's important is what's on your credit reports. And so you can go to annualcreditreport.com and you need to pull your credit report from all three bureaus, which is TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. So you want to pull your credit report from all three of those bureaus. And then you want to go through that credit report with a fine-tooth comb, meaning that you are looking for anything on there that doesn't belong to you. And it happens, guys. And these are things that are important. So even things that, where it's not fraud, where it's not that someone stole your credit and is using it, for their own benefit. It could just be something as simple as, a transposition error where someone flipped two numbers and it ended up with your social security number and not theirs, but they're good people and they're paying their bills and everything's great and fine. But yet you are the one that's going to be on the hook if they fall in hard times and cannot pay their bills. So you want to make sure that everything on your credit report belongs to you and only you. And so that's the last thing you want to do is pull your credit report, set up free credit monitoring through Credit Karma or through another one of the sites. You don't have to pay for credit monitoring. You don't. That's one of those subscription things that when you do your spending review, if you're currently paying for it, you don't have to pay for that service. You can get it for free. And I highly recommend you do, because even if you are debt free, like my family, like we don't use credit cards or anything anymore, but I'm recording a video, so that's just real beautiful.
I'm on my way home, sweet home.
And sorry, I got totally interrupted. My husband came upstairs singing and being completely crazy. So God, I lost my train of thought. But those are the things to do for the new year is to do a spending review. You don't have to do a whole year's worth if you don't want to, but definitely review the last 2 to 3 months worth of spending so you can make sure that you have been and will continue forward spending in a manner that makes sense for your family and for your goals. Make sure you review your savings accounts, your retirement accounts, all of your investment vehicles to make sure that you are on track for your savings goals, as well as make sure that if you have any debts that you have those listed out so you know what the balances are, so you're tracking them, and that you just kind of keep a pulse on your financial health as well. And make sure that if you don't have life insurance, that you get yourself some life insurance, convince your spouse to get some life insurance. Term life is wonderful. And make sure that you pull your credit report. Again, you can do so for free at annualcreditreport.com, and review your credit report from all 3 bureaus to make sure that the only things on your credit report belong to you and only you and no one else. So I hope that this new year is already treating you well, and I hope you have a very, very, very blessed start to your new year.